Hello everybody, for the sake of record, my name is Samuel, my major is informatics and I'm in the third year in G. Today, I'm going to make a small quiz talking about the city of Sydney to help you know more about one of the most famous cities in Australia. I'm going to talk about 4 distinct topics, start with geography, then going to sports, food and curiosities. Our teacher told us to not read anything during this presentation, so to prove that, I'm just gonna summarize. So, that's my room, and as you can see, there is nothing to read. So, without further ado, let's get into it. To start the questions about geography, I'd like to ask, which of these do you think is the landmark of Sydney? Letter A, the Sydney Tower. Letter B, the Sydney Opera House. Letter C, the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Or letter D, the Millennium Statue. The landmark of Sydney is the Sydney Opera House, and that's a multi-venue representation art center. The Sydney Opera House is considered to have changed the image of Australia due to have merged science and modernist influences, becoming one of the symbols of the 20th century architecture. For the final question about geography, I'd like to ask, how many suburbs do you think are there in Sydney? Letter A, 21. Letter B, over 53. Letter C, 13. Or letter D, 14. Sydney has about 13 suburbs. But there's a catch in that question. You see, the term suburbs in Australia means something different from the American and British ones. Meaning something more like neighborhood. So now that the questions about geography are over, it's time to talk about sports. To start, which of these do you think is the most popular sport in Sydney? Letter A, cricket. Letter B, rugby. Letter C, football. Or letter D, swimming. The most popular sport in Sydney is rugby, more specifically the rugby league. But that doesn't mean rugby is the most popular sport in Australia. That would be the football with the AFL, the Australian Football League. So now to the final sport question. Which cricket ground has the largest boundary in Sydney? Letter A, the Sydney Cricket Ground. Letter B, the Eden. Letter C, the McLean Park. Or letter D, the Oval. The Sydney Cricket Ground is the largest cricket ground based on boundary in Sydney. For those who don't know, a boundary is basically the delimitations of a stadium, or in that case, the delimitations of a cricket ground. A fun fact is that the Sydney Cricket Ground has not only hosted cricket games but also hosted football, tennis, rugby and motorcycle competitions. So, putting aside the questions about sports, it's time to talk about food. So question is, what's Vegemite? Letter A vegetable, letter B a fruit, letter C a paste, or letter D sweet. Vegemite is a savory spread that was invented in Australia in 1922. The paste has a strong taste and is better described as being salt with a sourdough bitterness. A fun fact is that the Vegemite is actually prohibited in some Australian prisons to avoid the prisoners to extract the yeast and make homemade brew. And this would conclude the topic about food, so let's talk about curiosities. First of all, what's Vivid Sydney? Letter A, a festival, letter B, a monument, letter C, a park, or letter D, a suburb. Vivid Sydney is a festival that brings together the most important firms in the creative industry. The festival basically makes the entire city of Sydney become art exhibitions with light shows and exhibitions. And the best of all, it's totally free of charge. So to finish off, tell me, how many beats are there in Sydney? Letter A, 200, letter B, 1, letter C, 68, or letter D, 100. Sydney has 100 picturesque beaches. The Bondi Beach is the most well-known of those, with 2.6 million visitors per annum, being 53% of those international visitors. So, this would be my final question and the end of my video. Thank you so much for hearing me, and I hope that helped you learn something new about Sydney. See ya!